In this video, we're going to explore position and relative in CSS. And this is also a very extremely important one. Why? Because understanding this gives you a far better understanding of how positioning works, and you will not be fumbling around or trying to figure out how to put the specific item in this location, where you use all these padding margins and then adjust everything in a way that is not really good. And don't, I'll be honest with you, I did this before as well. And this, while it works, because visually you see it's in the right location and it looks nice, but what happened is, if you look at the code, you see something is not correct. And secondly, it's a sign. If you do this, you figure out, or you should be aware that somehow you don't know something, and ignoring the thing you don't know is not a recommended thing. Especially if you're going to keep on making many nice projects, it's a pity not to understand. Because CSS is basically a code, so let's start and work with it. And I did this myself as well, I did all kind of crazy stuff. However, as it progressed, and that's what I assume with you as well, you will start to get better. Alright, so what I want to do here, first of all, is we have these things here. What I want to do here, position them here. Let's create here multiple divs. So we have a few items here to work with. So we're going to give you another class, and I'll say this one is relative. Oh, I want to make the small r. And then close. There you are. And then what I want to do is I'll copy this for now, and I will add up 3 more items. Alright, so we have relative 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these are all classes, and let's start working with this. Here, what I'm doing here, I have here a basic default item here, resetting a HTML. And then what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to do this relative. And what I will do here is I'll say this one has a height of 20 pixels. And I'll say background, and this background will be, let's make this very dark, so this can be a black background. And then we have another one. This will be height 40, and this will have a slightly lighter background. We have another one, which will be 60, and this one has, again, a more lighter grayish background, or I'll just do 999 so it's easier to spot. And finally, number 4, this will be number 4, is, let's do this one, this will be DDD. Alright, I'm just going to give these all the correct numberings. And once we do this and refresh, you can see now we have all of these items here. And this is how relative works. You can see the very top, I will just give this another color, maybe that's probably a more better one. I'll just say this is 3. This is a bit of a dark green here, but that's fine. So you can see here, let's open up our developer tab as well. You can see this here. We have here these items here. And what is really this? Relative is basically stacking each other or stacking on each other. So if you're very familiar with an old computer game called Tetris, this is it. So basically Tetris will start from top and then going down, as you can see the falling blocks. But in our case, our blocks are falling to the top, or they're flying up. And basically here's the traffic jam, then it puts on here first. You can see this is 20 pixels, the next one will eventually be stacked on top of it, etc, etc. So what will happen if you have an absolute? If you have an absolute, let me just make sure, because by default this is already relative, but I'm going to put in here relative as well. Let's see here, let me say here position relative, sorry, that's the right spelling, or the correct spelling, and bam, bam, and bam. Alright, so we have this all here. I guess it's that's alright, we leave that for now, doesn't matter. You can see this is all fine. So what will happen if we just create one new one, and this is absolute. So absolute, well, with absolute, and I'm going to give this a different color. This will be let's say A00. Alright, and this one is absolute. Now what will happen now if we change this class here into absolute, save this, you'll see not much will happen, or nope, of course without the, did we set the height? Yes, absolute, alright. it's not visible anymore. What really happens here is, let's double check. You can see it is missing somehow its positioning. Where are we? Just to make sure. As you can see, it starts to see, but for somehow the height is not being accepted here. So we do here a padding as well. Do a padding of 30 pixels. If we save this and then refresh, there we are. Alright, so we have here a padding of 30 pixels, and this is basically what happens here. It still stays within here, but of course it has like a fixed width or maximum what is needed, and will not use more space. But if we say here width 100%, there you are. However, the moment we start to assign absolute into a position where we can control it with left, let's say left 0, and then height, or sorry, top 0, you'll see now what happens is it jumps up, and what happens is overrules everything that's relative. Relative does not recognize absolute, and absolute does not recognize relative as well. So what happens is they are overruling each other. Alright? So this is very, very important to understand, because this can create issues. And we see another issue here. This is what I'm going to discuss as well. Because you can see we have this large left and right item here. Well, we set the width on 100. So what happened here? Alright, so let's look at this to understand here. If we look at this, right now this is the mobile version. It's set on 320. That's the width. The width is 320. And what happened is, besides 320, it gets a padding left and right of 30. So this is not what we want, because now you have this outside scrolling effect, which is absolutely hideous to have. What is the issue? What's the solution? Well, the issue here is we didn't set the box sizing. Yes, what is box sizing? Box sizing is basically within this box, border, padding, and height. We can set one specific height here. For example, if we set here the height of 60, we don't want this to be more than height of 60, or same with width. If this is width 100%, we should not have more than 100%. Right now we're over 100% because 320 here, 320 here. What about left and right, the padding? The paddings are not being calculated in the height. This is a box sizing method. So let's put in here a box sizing, which is also a very common use. So we say box sizing, then we say border box. Alright, so what happened now is we force the box, everything within this box. If we say here, this is a width of 100%, that would mean that everything all together, so the padding left, the width within the text area or the writing area, and the other padding right, all together should be a sum total of 320. Alright, so I just did this, I just saved this here, refresh, and now what happened is you can see instantly it works, and we are now on 260, and the padding left and right is 30. You can see as well the height has been adjusted as well, because the height was also being impacted. Because we have here the height of 60, and then we have a padding of 30, top and bottom. So now the height here is considered 0, while padding top and bottom is 60. So if you remove this again, let's comment this out, you will see then the height jumps again back. And this is what happens here. So we have 60 here, because we assign the height of 60, and then we have the padding here, top and bottom. Alright, so but this is of course not what we want. We want to make sure that this is working, but also that the absolute is not overruling anything else. So what we can do here is to put in here a padding top, or basically what we can do here, not even a padding, we can do a margin top. Yes, and the reason why not padding, because we're using box sizing. Now if not, that will impact the height of this. So we say margin top, and then what was the height that we assigned on the absolute? The height is 60 pixels. So we're going to say your margin top 60 pixels in height. Alright, once we save this, refresh, now everything works, and the relative item now starts to understand where to start, because we push it up, because the relative will start by default here if there's nothing else except an absolute. but the absolute is not considered as a part of the relative because it's non-relative. However, the relative will be considered when it's within here. So if you have an item in there, the relative will be considered. So, and this is really important to understand, especially if you remember, I remember before when I had the annoying scrolls at the side and I couldn't figure out where it was. And what happened is you're going to cut away padding left, padding right, everywhere out, and it will make a huge mess out of your code. It doesn't work well. Mobile responsive is starting to lag as well. You get all this trouble. So knowing that border box, or basically box sizing border box, will help you, and understanding how relative works in relationship to absolute, and how absolute is very useful for your menu bar because you set it on top. Basically, it's fixed on top, and you can also set it at the bottom, which will be fixed at the bottom, etc., etc. So then we could do this here. We do bottom, refresh, and now you can see we push it down, we force it down, and there's nothing more else. It pushes it down. This is a way how you can do a top menu and a footer menu, or a header menu and a footer menu bar. So I hope this was very useful. If you have any questions regarding this, put them in the comment section below.